Good evening, everybody. Good evening. Good to be. Thank you for having me here. Do you mind if I get comfortable, do you? Thank you. Okay, it's great to be up here again. As most know, we do these town hall meetings regularly across the county. Today, Stony Point is where we are today. So again, it's great being up here. We have a number of topics we're going to cover, and we're going to start off. I think the biggest issue in front of everybody is the 2016 budget that's been proposed. Basically, what? I'm sorry. Well, I'm going to speak to Legoland, but let me get to it because the involvement of the county is very minimal. But I'm going to give you everything that I do have on it. But the 16 budget affects all of us, including you. So I think it's important for you to hear about the 16 budget. Okay. Anyway, we've been working very hard for the last couple of years to be a more efficient organization here in Rockland County. As we all know, we had been in quite a difficult time fiscally. When I came into office January 2014, a $138 million deficit, which is significant when you consider we've taken about $300 million in revenues. We almost defaulted on the third week of January, and we went from there. We've done a lot of work to lean out our organization. We have a number of new department heads over in the first 6 months of 2014. Some things I can report back to you, that Rockland County government for now 2 years in a row has operated in the black. That has been a change. The budget this year shaves about $43 million off of last year's budget. That's the most significant reduction in a budget in Rockland County history. Sins of the past, we talked about the deficit we inherited. There was a $96 million deficit bond that was taken out. That's a $13.5 million annual payment starting 2016, which we had our eyes on when we first came into office in 2014. We knew that that number and other deficit demands were looking at potentially 15, 16, 17, 18% tax increase at the county level of government, which is obviously was not a non-starter. Over the last couple of years, the remaining deficit that was left has been shaved by nearly 30% over the last 2 years. So we are going in the right direction. We have had a couple of 2 years in a row now where we have had small surpluses. So we have turned the corner. What I can tell you with the proposed budget that we have right now, the challenges that we had of those payments, the $138 million and the deficit bond, we proposed a budget that will increase Rockland County taxes by about $4 per month for the average homeowner. With that $4 increase, you're not going to see that massive increase that some propose having a separate line for, where we would have the sins of the past tax line. We felt if we could possibly knock that down to a reasonable number, we did not want to additionally tax people beyond what we had to do. So for $4 additional a month, we have now incorporated those yearly payments into the regular budget in Rockland County. Summit Park and the budget. Sympaticare, who is the selected buyer, pulled out of the deal, terminated the contract at 9 p.m. the night before closing. That essentially obliterated any chance of us being able to get under the cap. The cost inherent to that action is about $7 million. So with all the work we did do, that did not help our situation. It impacted our patients, our staffs, and also the taxpayers. And I will get into that with a little more depth in a little bit later on. The future, the proposed budget is going to be building for the future by saving money and paying down our debt over a number of years. And again, that cost is not going to be a huge cost, which was expected if you go back to 2 years ago, what we're looking at having to pay off. Some of the details in the 16 budget, the Sheriff's Department. The Sheriff, like every other department head, was asked to reduce his budget by 5%. We saw what was coming here. We had to prepare for this situation, and we asked everybody to do that. So we did not get that reduction from the Sheriff, and he's entitled to that. I mean, he's an elected official. It's entirely up to him. I'm not going to force the issue. But that said, when I have department heads that are doing more with less, I expect him to do more with the same. And we felt this is an ideal situation and time to bring our county office buildings, our county property under the protection of trained armed professionals, our deputy sheriffs. So what we have in the budget is having the sheriff's department, and I've actually sent a memo to him directing him to do this, that we want to see him utilize deputy sheriffs to handle all security within county office buildings. So when you come to do any work there, you have a protection level that is commensurate with pretty much all the other municipalities in the area. I felt very strongly that there was an ability by the sheriff, using his skills as a law enforcement professional, to schedule his existing resources out to do this. He has the prisoner transport unit, which is not working all the time transporting prisoners. We have specialty units. We have our detectives there, who also caseloads are not that high. They have time, we believe. The mounted unit, which is not being funded. We have mounted officers who are available, and our Sheriff's Patrol, who certainly will be a natural to protect our outside resources. By handling it in this manner, we're going to save about $1.5 million in the budget. And just when I know throwing these numbers out can maybe not really be helpful sometimes, $1 million a year is about 1% property tax increase on average. As I said before, the mounted unit, we are not funding it, and frankly, in good conscience, I really could not fund the mounted unit when we were laying people off this year. So we opted not to do that. Impact of state mandates. I see some in Scoofus is in the room. Hey, Jim, how you doing? Good. And James has been a very big help to us up in Albany. I want to acknowledge him for that. The 9 and 90 Albany state mandates. There are 9 mandates that make over well over 90% of the county property tax levy. Those mandates go up 5, 6, and 7% a year. We're being asked every year to come in under the property tax cap, which this year is 0.73%. Now, I have a very simple approach to this. I'm from the private sector. We were used to delivering product at 0 increase. So when I have a level of government who is sending me a bill and telling me to keep my operations under a certain percentage, well, I damn well expect them to do the same thing with their mandates, and they don't. And that is something that's very frustrating, especially when you see how much of a percentage those levies are upon our tax bill. So it's something I offer for informational purposes so people understand what we're dealing with. Medicaid, for example, is about $65 million a year. That is about equivalent of two-thirds of your property tax levy. One program. The only state in the country that has counties paying to Medicaid is New York State. Used to be 2 states, Michigan no longer. So we are stuck footing the bill here at the local level. And what frustrates me as a county executive is, again, don't take credit for things at the state level if you're not going to keep your own shop, operating the same efficiency I have to. I will tell you that the controller has looked at our budget. We have every confidence he's going to talk positively about that 2016 budget, which is important because we do have oversight because of the borrowing that was done for the bonds. I welcome that oversight. Does not bother me in the least. Some legislators don't particularly care for it. I'm very happy to have the controller looking over our shoulder. I think that helps for transparency purposes. I fully expect another bond upgrade in the very near future. We've had 2 already. We've had a positive outlook done. It tells the investors that we have to go to market with bonds, that Rockland County is turning around. And that is a very critical thing. People remember 2 years ago, we were rudderless. We didn't know where we were going. And it was not a good picture for Rockland. I'm really, quite frankly, as a resident, I was fed up with being laughed at by many people. We're at the bottom of the barrel, the most fiscally stressed county in the state of New York, 2 years running. This year, we were raised out for 14. We jumped almost all the way out of the most fiscally stressed category by 21 points. We're just on the edge of coming out of the category altogether. And I'm very proud of that. That tells people we're getting the job done here in Rockland. Summit Park. I'm going to make this very, very simple. When a buyer signs an agreement, let me just use your own home, for example. You're selling your property. Buyer signs an agreement in July of 2014, and a closing date is given for December of 2014. And the buyer turns around and says to you, I can't close on time. Months later, you start wondering. When the buyer gets a 9-month extension to September 30th, which I think was a little bit too liberal, but the Limited Development Corporation in charge of this, because the county offices are not in charge of this at all, just so folks understand, Summit Park, nursing home and hospital, had, for all intents and purposes, there was a conveyance to an LDC, a separate entity, so there would be no politics involved, neither the legislature nor the executive branch. Our roles now for this sale is we're supposed to provide operational support out of the administration. The legislature is supposed to essentially do the necessary things to effect the sale. So that's how that works. 9 months were given by the LDC to September 30th, 2015. On September 16th, 2015, September 16th, 14 days before the sale, the closing, the buyer came into the legislative meeting and said, I can't close on time and I cannot guarantee the patient's safety. I need a month. I need a month. That was September 16th. What was proffered in exchange for that comment was, you need a month, that means October 15th. We will give you till October 31st. We will operationally support that transition to make sure that you can get to where you have to go to ensure we do not have to close, we do not have to lay people off, because that was never the intention. We wanted to make sure as many people as possible had jobs, and we did not have to move these patients. 9 p.m. at night, right before the closing, we got an email from the attorneys saying, we are terminating the deal. So the agreement was terminated by the buyer. This is after the price was reduced to $4 million, after we extended it to the end of October. And all we asked for was come down to the closing, sign the papers, and bring your check, a reduced amount from 36, which was the bid, to 32, which was the understanding that I was informed of by taking it over by September. None of those things happened. I have been making it very clear for a number of months that we were not going to be in the business of a hospital or nursing home in 2016. Sadly, because of many, many things that have happened over the years, that asset has been routinely and regularly destroyed, and that is just unfortunately the case. So I have been very clear we're not going to be in business in 2016. I had every hope that the buyer would complete the sale. The buyer terminated it, and that's where we stand. So we are moving forward right now. Unfortunately and regrettably, we're moving to a closing right now. It's very sad that the sad part is that people are getting hurt, our workers are being laid off, our patients are being moved out. But the reality is there's one alternative to this, a tax increase probably in the vicinity of at least additional 20%. I don't think the people of Rockland County wish to see that happen. I believe that very strongly. And I feel very bad about what's occurred, but the reality is that in my eyes, everything that could have been done has been done, and the buyer took it upon himself, and it's entirely up to him to do that, to terminate the contract. Legoland, to the folks in the back, okay? On the front, okay. All right, Legoland. Just for to start with, the Rockland County's involvement in the Legoland issue is very minimal. The county is involved essentially in planning. We review what the town goes through when there's an application in front of the town, only because if it's near a state or a county road, under the general municipal law, if it's in 500 feet, county planning department does get an application. There is no application yet, as far as I know, anywhere. Highway department would be involved for any road improvements on county roadways, Willow Grove Road, for example, if an application went through and was to proceed. I'll give you an overview, which I think is probably the best way. I know Scott doesn't want to be talking too much, but I think it's important for all of you to hear a sense of what I've seen, because I think there's some distrust going on. I know Myrna Bass-Hargrove, my community relations director, was at the meeting in Haverstraw yesterday, and I understand there's some disbelief as to what's happening. I will tell you what I do know. I am aware of the fact that Legoland had been looking at a number of locations, predominantly Virginia and New York, to place a new theme park. The theme park would be, as I'm told, and this is conceptually now, the theme park, which would be an investment of about $240 million, a swimming pool and a hotel. It's about a total of $400 million of an investment. They seem to be settling on New York. I'm aware of the fact the governor's office has had discussions with them. I'm aware of the fact that the town of Haverstraw and the school board has had discussions with them. I'm not aware of any agreements that have been made. I would not be aware of those. The CFA process, which some have pointed to, the issue of the community funding award grant system that's set up in New York State. They have won awards. I think they have one award they've won. I think they're in the running for a second. But to be very clear, those awards are not money conveyed up front. Those awards are used only if there's an approval for whatever the project may be, and then monies come forth. But there's no money that comes up front from the state. That much I can tell you. I think the most important thing I can share is that everything that goes on with this issue is contingent upon local approval. Right now, the town of Haverstraw, unless something changes, will be the lead, as in any application. That could change. I mean, it could be an application, Article 78, that could change. But right now, any application for land use falls to either the town or the village. In this case, it's the town. That's exactly how this works. I know there was some conversation. I want to hit a couple of points that I was told was brought up yesterday. There was some comments about not being the right project, being too big in scope. I know there's a lot of blight where that location is now. I understand that there's a concern property values may go down. There was a comment made about eminent domain. I can tell you the eminent domain issue that I had conversations about was limited to roadways, and they weren't. Again, I'm sharing with you what I know, what I was told. Let me finish. Ma'am, may I finish? Okay, the only eminent domain conversation that I have had, that I'm aware of, would be the same as any other roadway expansion. I have had no conversations, nor I have any firsthand knowledge of any conversations about any eminent domain takings of any property. I'm just telling you what I know. Okay? If somebody else knows a fact, that's fine. That's what I know. Okay? Community has mentioned they want some local development, something that's more conducive to local community. That's something that certainly is fine. I mean, but what is it going to be? If anybody has thoughts, anybody has any ideas, we have an economic growth director in Rockland County. I would welcome that phone call. If someone knows of somebody who's looking to develop that property, we actively look for that as a matter of routine. So we would certainly ask for that. There was a comment made about attracting sex offenders and putting our children at risk. Look, I'm an ex-NYPD commander. That is an issue that I'm very conversant on as a former investigator and commander of detectives. I will tell you that the risk to children exists in many places. They exist in our schools, in our churches, in our families. The issue with most children and being violated is usually someone who's placed in a trust with that child. It's not someone who goes and grabs a kid and takes a kid away. That's the reality of the dynamics of sexual offenses. So for what that may be worth right now, that is something that I would just offer as a safety issue to anybody who's a parent or grandparent right now. Those are the areas where children are most at risk. When they have people, coaches, teachers, police officers, people who are in a trusted situation as it relates to a child, uncles. These things happen. Oh. Ma'am, may I finish, please? Ma'am, may I finish? Okay. I'm giving you facts from an investigator. That's all I'm saying. I'm just saying that is the dynamics of sex abuse. I'm just answering a concern that was raised, and I'm offering a counterbalance to that thought so people are aware of that. Traffic concerns about traffic, pollution, noise, water. Traffic, what I would say to you, if there's any application that comes through, the discussion that has been happening so far has been about the Palisades Parkway being improved, whatever had to be done to accommodate. From our perspective, there's no way we would ever let anything go in any application without having a roadway improvement to go with it. So you would not have the same exact roadways if any application, Legoland or otherwise, that demanded more room. We would not let that go like that. As far as water is concerned, my understanding is that the water use is mostly recycled. All right, so I don't think it's a major hit. But again, this is my understanding of it. If I'm wrong, I may be wrong. I'm just giving you what I understand. The other comment was that, okay, we're gonna have Q&A. We're gonna have Q&A. We're not going to talk and run.
Let's get to that.
I'm sorry?
Let's get to that. We'll get to it.
We'll get to it. The other thing about tax revenues, yes, tax revenues, sales tax revenues, predominantly goes to the county of Rockland. The town of Haverstraw, I understand, is in conversation about leasing the property, so revenues do go to the town. As I said earlier, my understanding is the school board has had conversations with Legoland. To the extent I am not aware of what has been agreed to, if anything.
We have a confidentiality clause. They can't talk.
Okay, well, that's the case. I mean, I'm offering what I know. So at least you're hearing something, whatever, okay? These basically are some of the things that I can share with you from, that I've heard or I'm aware of firsthand. There are various levels of government involved. The state predominantly, the town predominantly, school board, I think, in an ancillary way, county in a very ancillary way, and it's ongoing. But it's a conceptual situation now, and there's negotiations going on. And that's about much I can tell you about this at this point. Illegal housing. You just read about a situation in Nyack where we had a death, 14 people in one house. Single family home, 600 square feet, 4 apartments. One person died. If that fire had happened 3 hours earlier, you would have been pulling out 6 to 10 people in body bags. This is exactly the situation that I have been trying to stop, utilizing what we call the Rockland Codes Initiative. Illegal housing, and not just, having grandma and, in a mother-daughter situation. We're talking about slumlords who are taking advantage of people for greed. All right, something I've talked about very passionately because of my background as a first responder. We've had some success with this, and we keep going at it, but I've said many, many times, it's not a matter of if it's going to happen, it's when, and the when happened yesterday. And anybody who saw the coverage, saw a little child being interviewed, I was in that building yesterday. We had pictures taken out. We had one room in a basement without a window, next to a boiler, think of carbon monoxide, no smoke detector pulled out. It was a child's room. So when I talk about illegal housing, I want people to understand, in my view, this is criminal activity. And the Codes Initiative has been levying heavy fines that are being collected. We're utilizing the IRS and the State Department of Taxation and Finance to go after these people. Our goal, frankly, is to turn slumlords into landlords. I don't begrudge anybody making a few bucks. That's the American way. But I do have a major problem when somebody puts somebody in harm's way by design and risk their life. I have a real problem with that. So we have been very aggressive in this area. It is a county-wide approach. Every town in this county has been visited and has been enforcement. Yesterday was Clarkstown. We've been in Ramapo. We've been in every town that in going after this particular case. Welfare fraud. A lot of folks bring this up to me. I had a very simple approach when I started, when I ran for office. Fair and balanced treatment for all, special preference for none. I have no sympathy for people who steal your money, steal my money. And when I steal your money, I mean that they get benefits they don't deserve. They scam the system. They try to beat the system. I have no patience for that whatsoever. I have given that kind of direction to our social services people. And last year, we had a $1.4 million savings, front-end detection, when people come in to apply, because unfortunately, the way it works now, many of the applications are online. We can't even guarantee that the person applying is even a resident of the county. We've had unemployment benefits gotten for 3 months outside this country. And this is one of the drawbacks of having a state program that I have no control over. So we try to work within the system. The reality is I'm devoting most of our resources to try and prevent the initial conveyance of any kind of benefits to folks who don't deserve it, because if we allow them to actually get the benefits and start collecting money, if we chase them down, we use investigative time, we use a lot of resources that local taxpayers have to pay for. When we recover the money, the state gets most of the money back. It's a sweet deal. It's a real sweet deal for the state. So we're focusing on front-end detection. When somebody first comes in, we do everything we can do then to ensure that any application is meritorious. And again, we are a good county. People here are very, very good about helping each other out. If somebody needs a hand, we give them a hand. But I think you expect that your money is not wasted. So to date right now, as of the end of September, we have saved $2.3 million of your tax money on avoidance of costs that would have gone to inappropriate applications for social services. And as I said earlier, the Medicaid system alone accounts for nearly 2/3 of your property tax bill, or the equivalent of that much money. So this is what we're continuing doing in that area of welfare fraud. And also one other area, we also are trying to continue what we started with in not just bringing good, clean ratables to Rockland County, but taking companies that are here already, helping to expand instead of leaving. My favorite story is Par Pharmaceutical up in Chestnut Ridge. They were looking to expand, and they were having some issues with the village of Chestnut Ridge on their application for an expansion. Now, the application, to make it brief, was not unwieldy. It was nothing inappropriate about it. It wasn't, didn't shock anybody's senses. It kind of made sense. But the village, this is the summer, the company needed answers by September in order to make a decision whether they stay in Rockland or they move their operation to Jersey. Through the good offices of Sam Presti, who's the mayor of Chestnut Ridge, I reached out to him, explained the situation. Long story short, he was able to get a meeting of his planning and zoning board together in the summer. We encourage Par Pharmaceutical to make sure they have everything done. Don't have to come back a month or two later, because you guys are the ones who are looking for, a quick hearing. The way it ended up working out, not only did they get the approval, not only did they not move to Jersey, they ended up taking all their workers from Jersey and bringing them back to Rockland County. And the benefits you see, beyond the fact that it's a rateable, they're going to obviously pay some more taxes, which minimizes the impact of property taxes on the people, of the residents, is that what you end up with is the guy down the end of the block on Chestnut Ridge Road in 45, would it be? He found all these extra people coming to his deli for lunch. He couldn't understand where they were coming from. They came from Par. So his company, his place is doing better. And this is the idea here. We have GHD data, a data center, which is virtually negligible impact upon the living conditions. It's in Orangetown. When we bring these firms here, we create a platform of wealth, and we minimize the need to fund government through property taxes. It's not sexy, it's not front page news, but if we keep doing that, we end up making life a little bit easier for all of you who are just trying to go month to month and just trying to deal with the tax we have right now without having to add to that. So with that, Scott, I guess.
I have a few questions on Summit Park, and the rest are all on Lego Land. So I just wanted to start with the Football Hospital question. Why aren't you negotiating with Sympathetic, and where are you going to terminate October 5th?
Why am I not negotiating? We have first of all, the
question is, why is County Executive Day not negotiating with Sympathetic? And were you going to terminate on October 1st?
Okay. We're not negotiating with Sympathetic because Sympathetic negotiates with the LDC. It's not my role to negotiate a contract. That's why the LDC was created. And in point of fact, that is the proper way to negotiate. It's not done by the county executive. It's not done by the legislature. So negotiations take place between the LDC, Limited Development Corporation, and the buyer.
I'm here tonight, and I would like
Sir, we're not, nobody else here is doing this. I don't know who you are right now, other than you are a citizen. You would please sit down, I would appreciate it.
I represent Sympathetic.
That's fine, you're a citizen right now. Sympathetic is no more guys in relationship with Rockland County.
Citizen throughout.
You're a citizen. Sir, you're interrupting me. Nobody else is doing this. Why keep me acting like a gentleman? Act like a gentleman and let me talk. You are interrupting me and other people. Okay? Thank you very much. As I said, the LDC involves itself with the buyer, the negotiation, and what's that question, October 1st?
October 1st, were you going to terminate?
We actually waited 5 more days. We were hopeful that the buyer would come back to us after 5 days. We sent a closure plan on October 5th. You have to wait those 5 days. And again, if you listen to the narrative, which I explained earlier, we had a contract, we had a closing, couldn't make it, had another extension, and a closing, couldn't make it, I need more time, got more time, terminated the contract 9 o'clock tonight. So.
Wouldn't it be beneficial if you had it back and forth so that
Why
I don't think so.
Why are we shouting out? He's being very respectful.
I don't understand how.
Everybody be very respectful.
You're right. You're right.
So,
Maybe I should just leave as resident of Rockland County because
this is a format, it's worked very well on the
It's a
place.
controlled
If you want to
meeting.
it's a controlled meeting.
Open the agenda tonight.
Questions
Oh,
in
right,
the
right.
He
What
just-
about Legoland?
Excuse me, sir.
That's what I believe.
Who let you do that? Did you look at the county messaging on this? Did you see anything? Anything Legoland?
Very good. Is this a legal message?
No.
I beg your pardon?
I'll let you speak. Let
You're not allowed to talk?
me no, we asked,
We're here in Stony Point.
let
We're
me
here in Stony Point, where the issue is Legoland.
And we're going-
Why don't you address those issues now, tonight, instead of all the rest?
Okay,
There's
first,
some people actually care about all this.
let me make it very clear. If you look at everything we put out, I don't know who told me about Legoland. We are going to answer the question of Legoland. I devoted part of this meeting already to Legoland. What I'm trying to say is we are covering the budget, we are covering a number of issues that are current and compelling to the entirety of Rockland, and we are devoting some time to Legoland. But this is not a meeting about Legoland, and nothing, I don't know who told you that, but it's an error if you look at what we have said. If you look at the Facebook pages, look at the messaging out of the county, we're very clear, this is about the budget. It was on News 12 today about the budget, it didn't even mention Legoland. So we understand it's a concern to people here, so I'll talk about it to the extent that I can share information. I don't have all the answers, I don't know what the answers are. So we're talking about it.
The county came to Stony Point to talk about the budget.
The county,
The county, excuse me, the county's been doing this in Orange
When was the
Town.
last time the county came to Stony Point to talk about the budget?
last year.
This is a brand new administration, and we came to the Fieldstone
Thank
School
you.
1 year ago.
It feels so last year.
Make it switch.
I'm sorry?
Can the county executive answer for himself?
I beg your pardon?
First of all, the debate which were at Fieldstone last year, we come up this year on the budget, it was been roundly covered. And that's what we're doing. We are talking about Legoland, but it's not a Legoland meeting. That clearly is not. We're talking about it. To the extent that I can give you information, I'm giving it to you.
Here's the question about the lead agency. What is the lead agency with regards to Legoland?
Okay, the lead agency, as I said earlier, right now, by law, the lead agency is the town of Haverstraw. That could,
That's not by law.
who hears it under the GML?
The secret process establishes the lead agency, not necessarily the town council.
Right now, the town of Haverstraw
It
has
doesn't
it.
have to be by law.
I'm saying, right now, the town of Haverstraw hears the application as the level of government that is.
That's good to know, because we didn't know that before.
Okay, well, I said that earlier, so without problem.
Why is he allowed to talk? He's not.
He asked a question.
They're both citizens. He asked the question also. You can shut me up also? Can I ask a question?
What's your question? What's your question?
My question is why are you closing Summit Park when there's someone here to talk to you? When someone here wants to talk to LBC? I interviewed 250 people at Summit Park personally, okay? I know all the residents, and they love it there. I walked to a room with a 98-year-old.
Where is the question? The question is.
My question is, there's a person here.
The question.
You talked about millions of dollars in debt that the
Are
county
you
does.
going to ask, you asked a question, why are we closing?
Yes.
Because the fact of the matter is, we need 90 days to shut the facility down. It's been very clear, September 30th was the last day we could remain open. And the buyer terminated the contract. Simple. As the answer.
Well, did you not?
The answer, sir, you got the question that somebody else has.
I'm here tonight and. I'd like
Again,
to
stop
say
interrupting,
something
please.
first.
Stop, please. I'm not going to get into a debate. I've asked you a question.
Willow Grove Road keeps coming up as the county's one property with regards to Legoland. Can you explain that? Eminent domain to Legoland.
The only eminent domain issue, I mentioned this earlier, that I've had discussions about, if we had to widen Willow Grove Road, we would have to use eminent domain to make it wider, just like New Hempstead Road. Those of you who are familiar with that construction there was a number of parcels that had property taken. They were paid for that on that property. It was money conveyed to them in order to make the road wider. That's the extent of eminent domain conversations I've had with them. Next one.
So I think about.
Mr. Day?
Hold on one second.
Mr. Day?
Yes, yeah, well, yes, ma'am.
I
Go away.
live right off of Willow Grove Road.
Yes.
this, I would be affected by that eminent domain. I was promised last night by Howard Phillips that there would be no eminent domain. So which one is it?
Oh, he said there would be none?
He said there would be none.
Well, I don't know.
Related to Legoland.
Right.
Sorry?
That I probably, Phillips said there'd be no eminent domain in reference to Legoland. It's a little buy and sell.
Okay.
So sure, that 174 acres won't require eminent domain,
Okay.
but all the roadways like
Okay,
you're saying.
I will tell you from my highway superintendent, to your question, he informed me that if the road had to be widened, there would be minimal eminent domain on that roadway. He said, who's he? I wasn't,
Mr. Phillips at the meeting last night declared, no eminent
ma'am,
domain will take place.
I did,
None whatsoever.
ma'am, I'm not going to answer for a supervisor. All I'm telling you is my highway superintendent who spoke about a county roadway said there would be minimal eminent domain if we had to widen Willow Grove Road. That is what I was told, that's all I can answer. I cannot answer what you said.
But in relative terms, what does minimal development group mean? You know what I mean? Is it 5 feet, 10 feet,
Ma'am, we have
15
another,
feet?
I'm sorry, I have a question, I'm sorry.
Can
I don't, ma'am, see, here's the thing. I don't know the answer to that question. I don't know if it's 5 feet, 10 feet, 15 feet. I don't know what's going to happen at all. This is a conceptual application as far as the county is concerned. There is a concept that's been proposed that the state, the town, and the school board has had a conversation. I said earlier, the state has been relatively heavily involved in the conversation. The town, as I understand it, has been relatively heavily involved. I know Mr. Phillips, I think, went to California or went traveling to take a look at one of the parks. This is what I was told. Who's been in Florida? Excuse me?
You didn't look at any of these Legoland sites?
No, I did not. Where did you get that from? The town board member. No, I did not go to Florida, sir. You know, before,
Are you in favor of the project, Mr.?
I don't know. I don't have the information yet. All right, no, I'm not looking. If you're going to make accusations, I'm not going to make the conversation. Well,
Next question again focuses on the Palisades Parkway in Legoland. Is the Palisades Parkway a national historic site, and if so, can it be altered?
No, it can't be altered.
And who will pay for improvements on the parkway?
well, again, what I was told, all I can attest to is what I am aware of. The state has had conversations about the potential of making adjustments to Palisades Parkway should this move forward. That's all I can say. That's all I need.
You've addressed this one too. If the county received enough valid reasons from the residents as to why Legoland should not be built here, would the county back it and support it, and support the town residents?
I said on News 12, I know a lot of people looked at Channel 2 News and saw me saying about how great we can get the revenue. They didn't put my whole comment in. If you look at News 12, and I see News 12 is here, when they interviewed me, I made it very clear, any type of development, it is critical that there is a strikes a balance. I've heard many people in Stony Point and Haverstraw who talked about, but you know, it'll bring revenue in, but is it worth having that there? It's a balance. I'm a former Civic Association president. I'm sensitive to this. So to your question, if there is not a balance of residents' rights and respect the same, I would not be in favor of it. But again, I don't know what the final product is or remotely look like at this point, other than an honest record.
I have a question about the sewer district between Stony Point. Is the health, environmental, fiscal issue to the town of Stony Point, is the county involved in this? Can you discuss the possibility of opportunity for the county to take over the sewer plant from Stony Point?
Okay, if there, two things. Number one, yes, it is a health issue for Stony Point, obviously. There's no question about that. My understanding of it, and James, if I'm wrong, please enlighten me, is that this is a Haverstraw-owned system. It is not a sewer district-owned system. So this is something they got to work out. But the county would not take it over. If there was any takeover of the sewer district or the sewer system, it would be by the Rockland County Sewer District, if there was a takeover. I'm hopeful that the town of Haverstraw and town of Stony Point will come to some kind of resolution.
Mr. Day?
Yes, sir.
We had the press conference yesterday.
Right.
There's two issues. We have to have, for the DEC, you have to have an overflow capacity. So that's why we've used them in the past.
Okay.
But there's direct hookups, and all the direct hookups are right along Willow Grove Road, right across the street from where the Legoland would be. So what's happening is by shutting all our residents off, anything down along there flows directly into Habsboro. Doesn't flow into our system. So thereby we have no alternatives. We have to build a whole new plant. And the whole rumor mill is that it was being done, termination, in order to have capacity for the water park rise.
I'm not going to address rumors. Look, I know this is in court now.
But this is a situation January 1st. I understand.
I ask your indulgence here.
Yes.
Okay, I'm listening to you. The reality is, that's a rumor mill, that's a conjecture. I can't answer that. I really can't.
For January 1, we do not have a sewer based on the contract.
And the matter of the sewer issue is now in court, correct?
Well, it is, yes, to a degree.
Okay, so hopefully the cool heads prevail. There's been a lot of battling between Jeff and Howie, I know that, and a variety of issues. Hopefully at some point everything will calm down, and we'll get some things done with people.
More Legoland, the regional councils are driving projects many people do not want, such as Legoland and Anelatic. Can the county withdraw from participating?
Okay, the regional councils also drove an organization called Juanio to do an extension. Did anybody have a problem with Juanio? No.
You can't compare the two.
Sorry?
Antonio, Lego, oh no.
I asked
They stick with you,
Let me answer the question, okay? My point here is that right now, years ago, we used to have member riders. Legislators or assembly people and senators would bring money back home, and it would be used for whatever, okay? The governor of New York has set up the councils and a consolidated funding reward system. It's done across the state. This is how counties, organizations, not-for-profits, towns, villages get funding for projects, okay? It is supposed to be merit-based. It is weighed by independent counsel. I know some don't like that. I know my friend is not crazy about this. I understand it. Diana's here. I understand that. But as I have told Lynn before, we've had breakfast together and talked about this. It is the rules in which we operate under right now.
It wasn't voluntary?
Lynn, let me finish. They're the rules we operate under right now. Is it voluntary? Yeah, I could pull out. You're absolutely right. I can say Rockland County will not engage in any kind of competition. I will remind people last year, Rockland County got $16 million of economic dollars, including $2 million for Joanna, all right, for good things that happened in this county. So numerous awards were given out. So I could do that. I could say, no, I'm not going to take the money. And then we don't get that kind of money invested in this community. Now, it seems to me that's a very short-sighted approach. I think the way to go here, which I have expressed to Lynn during breakfast, we talked a while ago. If you feel that this approach is wrong, if you feel that this approach we should not be involved in it, go to your state representatives and have them change it. Have our state legislators, our assembly people, our senators say, we don't want to have this type of approach for funding. We want to do something else. But for me, as a county executive, it would seem that the smartest thing for me to do is to compete for those dollars and bring them back home to Rockland County. And the bottom line is this. The CFA award process, any application that is funded, if they get an award, whatever it may be, it has to be approved at the local level. That's the reality. It's not, you get the money and automatically got approval. It has to come here. And I use Juanio as an example for a reason. Juanio got funding $2 million for an extension on one of the buildings. Okay, now the $2 million isn't given to them. They have to apply to the town of Bardstown for a variance, maybe even a zone change. I don't know what the dynamics are of that particular building, but if they don't get the approvals by the planning, zoning, town board, they don't get the money. That goes for any other application, including the Legoland project. If there's no approvals given, the money is not granted. That's the simplest way I can explain it to you.
There's one long Legoland question. This might sound like a
Is it like a stack of Legos?
It's not. I'm very concerned about our schools and our children. Legoland will affect 3 schools directly, a high school, middle school, and an upper elementary. The demolition of the existing property, buildings, and trees will be right outside the school windows. With all of the equipment and trucks, the sawing, the noise will be unbearable. How can our children be expected to focus and learn? Concentrate on learning while all of this is going on? Then comes the construction, more distraction and more noise.
Okay. Obviously, any construction is going to be a distraction to some degree, to the extent that it's going to intrude upon people as part of the process. You certainly should express this, the town board should certainly understand this. The school board should be very sensitive to this. I mean, we have a major construction project going on right now, it's called Tappan Zee Bridge. People who live near Tappan Zee Bridge are being impacted. There are things that are being done to minimize an impact, the bridge has to be built. So when any construction that goes on,
Legoland is not needed, TZ Bridge
I'm not quarreling with the merits of Legoland. I'm just saying, any construction project, not just Legoland, any construction project that comes to pass is going to intrude upon our quality of life. It is incumbent upon your elected officials who are responsible for that. And in this particular case, right now, it's a town of Haverstraw, unless we have a different lead agency who may take that over. It's incumbent upon them to accommodate that and to understand what has to be done. That's been happening with Tappan Zee Bridge. The people who live near the bridge have engaged with the state. They've been having certain things done to mitigate and ameliorate their issues there to the extent that they can. You know, with the pile driving going on, they had the noise counters there. So again, is it painless? Any kind of construction? Of course not. You do an extension back of your home, it's not painless. But again, there's a process that has to be followed. The concern should be brought forth. So they're answered. And I will tell you one thing. Don't ever assume in any meeting you go to that the person on the dais understands everything that's going on. Bring those questions forward. Have them answered. That's what the process is all about.
The county executive is going to be around for a few minutes at
Yeah.
the end here, just to answer some other questions. And that's, if you want to do that one-on-one, but we're pretty much, that's,
This lady, let me ask you, that's one more question. I'll hang out for a little bit.
I was the one who wrote that question. My concern, I don't know if you've been up there to the site, but literally the property is directly next to those schools.
I'm with it. And again, I
would go to the board.
I could not answer it any better than it's a valid concern.
I accept your explanation.
And you have a right to have an answer, but it has to be heard at the appropriate level that can have an impact upon
But if I ask the school board, we get told we signed a non-disclosure.
It's
I
not.
want to...
This is a school board, and I would like to respond to that. Just a quick question. But my question is, we did not sign a confidentiality agreement.
Before this
We agreed with our attorney that we would keep some matters confidential. We have not had any further information since last June. Now, my general question is, do you believe in government by secrecy? This entire project is being conducted in secret. But Haverstraw and Legoland have been unwilling to describe this project to the public. And that is the core of my
Two things. Can I
concern.
answer the question? First of all, no, I do not believe in secrecy, which is why I am here.
Thank you.
Number one. I'm here answering questions. Number two, you just mentioned you agreed as a school board member to keep things confidential.
We did agree.
Okay, stop, sir. I heard you. Let me answer your question.
In writing, we do not have an agreement in writing.
Let me answer your question, sir. You're a board member?
I am, sir.
I'm asking for the same respect you asked me. You asked me the same respect in your boardroom, okay? You just said that you've agreed to a confidentiality. You haven't signed an agreement, but you've agreed to confidentiality. I'm going to close with this. What I quite can't understand is you're saying that you agreed to be confidential in your discussions, and then you're land-basing government for being secret. Just say
No, sir, don't play that game with me. I asked you.
I don't believe it. I believe being transparent, yes.
We do not control the project. I'm
Neither do I.
not asking you to disclose the contents.
I don't have
I'm saying the town of Haverstraw
Okay.
and Legoland, and I have said this before the DEC
Right.
at the scoping hearing for the Stony Point project. I have said this should be made public. They should tell the public about the details. I'm not.
And you expressed this at the town, sir.
Tell us what you wrote.
Express this at
No. No, we don't have control over the project, and you know that. The council, no, this is nonsense. Because what they told the school.
If I can just have your time,
Early on,
guys, listen up.
I don't know the substance.
Anyone who doesn't know, I'm supervisor of the town of Stony Point. I sat in the back all night listening. I was quiet at your meeting. It's for 2 minutes.
Sir, please, let people speak, sir, please.
I was just taking a few notes first, not to take on that. First, I want to thank you for coming here for this tonight. Just giving us how we do not have problems, but I don't have a personal problem with Mr. Phillips, but I do have some issues where, you know, we want information. I think that's why we're here tonight. We need to be at Haberstroh meetings. That's where we have to be. Ed is nice enough to come here tonight, stand here and take abuse. I'm sorry. I understand. I understand. We had our own town board meeting at last night too, so everyone knows that. But as a representative of the 16,000 people and the businesses here in town, you know what? I should be involved in these meetings.
Absolutely.
Whether Ed's there, whether the county, the state, or anyone else. These meetings are going on, and I'm not saying Ed's meetings, behind our backs. We need to know what's going on. And I was elected to represent the 16,000 people, and we're going to do that. We're going to fight, as my whole board is. Some of them are here tonight. We're going to stand up for what we believe in. We believe that this is going to bring a truckload of traffic, let's put it that way. We're trying to bring in a gasification plant that's going to put approximately $15 million into our school districts, which is what we need. This project is not going to be bought. The land is not going to be bought. It's going to be leased. The land is going to be leased for one reason. So all the money can go to Haberstroh and none to the school district. Let's face it, that's why it's being leased. There's 8 other Legolands throughout the country, I'll say. There's 8 of them. All 8 are owned. Not one other one is leased. Why? Because the community that they're in, they're paying taxes to the schools, to the villages, to the towns. That's what we want here. We want our taxes. Let's face it, we split Willow Grove Road right up the middle. It's a yellow line. We own that side, Haberstroh owns that side. We're going to take the abuse. We're going to take the traffic. We're going to take the shot at home value. Someone said we're going to lose properties. That's probably going to happen. We're going to lose our school district. We're not going to get a dime for it, but we're going to be putting our kids through that traffic going to school every morning. There's 3 schools right there. That's one of the biggest problems.
I want to say, Supervisor Finn and I have spoken at length about the gasification project. I was up there very early on with some of the council people looking at how we can do this in a proper manner. So I support what Stony Point's been trying to do. And honestly, I don't quite understand, to speak to your concern about secrecy, I don't quite understand why the property's not being sold. I have no idea.
I think we all do. We do. We do know.
And the way in which the gasification, that project in Stony Point was vetted, exchanged some of its plans, the communications that have gone on.
Right.
Just compare the two.
The gasification
Whether you like
plant
one
from
or you
day
don't
one.
like the other, the fact is, there's been no attempt to describe Legoland to the community the way in which...
Well, that's why we're here. We've had 3 public meetings for a gasification plant. Mr. Phillips comes and screams, we have 200 trucks that are coming in. He calls it 400 because 200 are going in, 200 out. That's the biggest problem he has right now. With this property, they're talking about widening 9W. That's the rumor I'm hearing. Now, that may be a rumor. If we're going to widen 9W, guess what? We can handle 200 trucks coming in and out. Can we handle 14,000 cars a day? 7,000 in and 7 out? You can't. You just cannot. I don't care if you put 5-lane highways on the Palisades Parkway. Take a ride up there on a Sunday night or a Sunday afternoon. You're not going to make it. Put another 7,000 cars each way. We're done, people. Sell your houses. We cannot have it here. I'm not blaming Ed. I'm not telling you to sell your houses. I'm telling you we need to stop this so our houses, our values stay high. That's what we need to do.
Is that the state needs to be the lead agency on this project and not the town of Haberstroh.
The town of Haberstroh, the town of Haberstroh, just really information. The town of Haberstroh came to Stony Point when we had our gasification and wanted DEC to be lead agency. We agreed to that. We said that's fine. We don't care about that because we feel very proud about this project. And if DEC comes back and says, that's no good for this, guess what? We step back and we find something else. We need either the state, listen, I'm not going to say who I want to be the agency because I don't want that to go on the record, but I will tell you this. We need to know what's going on. We need to be involved. And as your representative at the 16,000 people and our businesses, myself and my board should be at these meetings. We went to a school board meeting. Mr. Krause, you were there. A school board meeting with Merlin Enterprises, who seem to be running Haverstraw now, which is Legoland, and we were thrown out. We were thrown out of that meeting, all right? The next day I went to the newspaper and I told them about this, and we came up with an idea. You know what? $1 million is the rumor to the school and $5 to Haverstraw. It certainly isn't fair for us. We're going to take the brunt of it. Right? And if anybody see the paper, I asked for a $2.50 surcharge tax on top of every ticket sold. The $2 goes directly to the school board, and if they get 2 million people a year, that's $4 million to the school board. 50 cents for every ticket sold goes directly to the town of Stony Point to pay for our extra fire, for our road repairs, for our ambulance, for our police. That's what we need to do. We need to be involved.
Okay, one more thing. I'll be here for a little while. One thing I will tell you, just like last night, when there are meetings up here on this particular project, I will have somebody from the executive staff at those meetings to take your concerns, because if I have discussion with the governor's office, I want to share those concerns with them. Okay, we're going to stay here if you want to come up to talk.